Hey guys, it is March 20th. I hope you're having a fantastic Hawaiian Friday. Today I just want to go over what I'm looking at in the Bitcoin charts, what I explained last time in my previous video here, a few day trades that I took in the last few days, and I just want to kind of explain why I took them, why I took profits where I did, that sort of thing. So let's go back to my last video. I had this green triangle outlined here. It did play out perfectly. I mean, I was looking for a break of this green trend line here, which we got. And honestly, guys, I was looking at it as a bit of a bullish triangle because the upward sloping support was greater than the sloping downward resistance. So I felt like the pressure was going upwards a little bit, especially right here. We had a bit of a double bottom and it never quite even came down to our green support line here, which tells me that things were a little too bullish and people were ready to step in and buy Bitcoin before it even hit support. So that was leading me to believe that the move was in fact going to be up. Another thing here is I had this line drawn out. I believe it was green in my last video, but I made it red just to clear things up. Sorry about this cluster right here. I will explain things as I zoom in. Anyways, this purple line is a daily trend line. This red line is just a downward sloping support or resistance that I had, and then our triangle. So basically down here where I took my first trade, I was thinking that even though my triangle wasn't confirmed yet, I was expecting a third touch point along the top of it. Quite often you'll get 3 touch points on each line on a pattern. So here if I zoom in, like I said, we had this double bottom here and never even quite came down to the green line here. So then we consolidated a little bit, and as we got up here, we kind of formed another little bit of support. I was expecting us to actually drop down and touch the green line, but instead it started going up. So I took a long position here at 10 times leverage. And the reason I took profits on my position here rather than waiting to see what happened is we came very close to touching the top of my triangle, and then we had a red candle close. And even though this is just a 15-minute, I'm looking at these as day trades, quick in, quick out. So after we closed the red candle, I was looking at this as possibly being a test and a rejection where we might come back down and test the bottom, which never did happen. But either way, I took my profits after that red candle close. That was a 10 times leverage trade. So that was a very quick 60 something percent profit. So that worked out perfectly. I was still under the impression this was going to break out to the upside. So I was still watching it, but I waited for confirmation. So when we closed above our triangle, above the line, and also that red line, I was worried about that coming into play and being resistance. But we closed above both of them, and then we actually consolidated above our red resistance line, which was leading me to believe that it would be a resist to support flip, which is what you want to see for the market to carry on. Then we got this green candle close above these wicks here, which is generally a good sign. But I waited until we had this red close, which also stayed above, and then another green close. So this old resistance was kind of holding as support, even though it was wicked below here. The candle structure remained bullish. So I set a stop buy. So as soon as we broke above here, I was willing to play the momentum and see what happens. So anyways, got this beautiful, nice run up. And then here we had a bit of a double top. So I wasn't willing to get out of my trade here yet. But what happened then is we rallied a little bit again and then closed another red candle without getting above this. So I was willing to walk away there with my profits. Again, a 10 times leverage. And it was basically a 50% trade. It was very close. So you know what? Very happy with that. Then I had to wait for a new pattern to form here. And I was watching this little bit of a yellow line. I was generally, the trend is your friend, so I was looking for a reason to get back into a long position. And what we had here, let me just make that a little thinner, is we had another bit of a sloping resistance line, but it wasn't being rejected hard. It never did crash very low. It never moved very much. So it was kind of holding as support. So when we got here and bounced off it a few times, and we were holding, then we kind of formed this red line of support here. I was willing to play the upside because in my last video I showed you my targets for my green triangle, and they are quite a bit higher. They are still higher. So I was more willing to take on a long position. I felt like it was a little less risky, and really my stop loss was just down here. It was a very tight stop loss, so the amount that I was potentially going to win would have far outweighed what I would have lost if my targets were reached. Now, I'll show you what my initial target was. I showed this in my previous video, but I'll show you again. You take the height of our triangle here, move that as a measured move from where it broke out from, and that lines up perfectly with my daily trend line. So that ultimately is my target, is around $8,000, which I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I got out of my trade and I'll show you why. So I entered my long position here, which I just explained, and we got above this daily trend line, which got me excited, and I thought we were going to make that move rather quickly. But then what happened is we started getting red candle closes, and they actually started closing back below this daily trend line. So I was taking this as a fake out. We were actually going to go down. So when we got this candle close, I took my profits there, and it was around 50% again. So yeah, 55, 56%, somewhere in there. Then I had to wait for another trend to develop, guys. So I made this red trend line from where we really took off. We did a few bull flags and kind of consolidated, and where we launched from again. Here's another launch pad point. So I carried that line through, and we got a red candle close below that. So the support line that I've been watching and what was leading me to play the upside so much has been broken, so I was willing to look at it from a different angle. So before I had this descending triangle here, or sorry, descending channel, what I had was a bit of a wedge. You guys know how I love my wedges. So I had this consolidation happening down through our support. Remember, I'm not in a trade at all, but here we had our red candle close below, and so I entered a short. As soon as that closed, entered a short, and we got back above this line. I was kind of starting to wonder about my position, but I wasn't going to worry about it because things have been so bearish across all markets lately that I was willing to go short here. So I did, and if we got any candle body closes above this trend line then on the way down, that's when I was kind of looking to get out of my position if it had to happen. But we did drop, and we dropped fast, and that was another beautiful trade. I'm pretty pumped. Again, 10x leverage from this candle here close. That was over a 70% trade, guys, in like an hour, where my take profits were hit. And the reason I took my profits on this white line here is a few reasons. We had this cluster of trading action right here, and I was a little hesitant that we would break through this. I was kind of assuming that would act as new support potentially, even if for the short term. But also, we have this yellow line touching a couple points, or two low points, and then it actually touched perfectly a third point here. And I mean, I never did wait for that. That would have been a perfect pinpoint accurate trade, but I wasn't willing to risk that. So what I did is, also, sorry, I forgot this green triangle. Again, the whole resistance becoming support. I was worried that we would not break past this. I figured there was a lot of things leading me to believe that that could be the end. So I took my trade and I took my profits, and you know what, guys? It worked out perfect again. It was like about a 70% trade in about an hour. Uh, it's ridiculous. So then, after getting out of that trade, I had to wait, and here we got back into this wedge, and I wasn't really willing to give it too much credit. A lot of times, if you dip out of a wedge and then break back into it, it really hammers through with momentum, and it looks like that might actually happen right now, which would be exciting because I did just take on a long position about 20 minutes ago or a half hour ago. Um, but what I was waiting for was a candle body close above our main resistance trend here, and it happened. We had this falling wedge, we had this candle close above, we had a second candle close and confirm. So I decided to take a bit of a long position here. And guys, it's still possible I lose on this position. Um, if it starts closing candle bodies below this yellow line, I will be treating this as a bit of a fake out, and I will assume that we are going to the downside once again. And at that point, I'll just assume I'm looking at the charts incorrectly. I'll get out of my trade, I'll reduce my risk, I'll do whatever I have to do. Trading is about playing your odds, it's not about winning every single hand you're dealt, right? So here, we also have this yellow trend line that I pointed out earlier, and I would still be willing to play that, honestly, depending how this forms. If we bounce along this line down here, I won't necessarily close my position because I might actually add to it depending how the chart looks as we approach this yellow line. We're going to have to see how it goes because honestly, as I showed here, my target wasn't even all that close to getting hit, even though I made some beautiful trades. The target was way up here, hasn't happened, still might, but there can be a lot of trades between now and then. So yeah, we're going to see what happens here. You have to be willing to change up your game plan if the charts tell you to do so. I don't want to emotionally hang on to a trade longer than I should. Sometimes it's smarter to just cash in your chips or just cut your losses, do what you have to do. It's always good to lock in profits. That never hurt anybody. So anyways, guys, that's kind of what I've been looking at right now. We're going to have to see how this position goes. I'm hoping there very well could be a retest of this red line, in which case that would, well, at 10 times leverage, it could end up being over 100% trade. We're going to have to see what happens. Maybe we'll get stopped out at this purple line. Either way, that would be an 80% trade. I mean, we'll have to see what the charts tell me to do. So amongst everything going on in the world, I know the markets are extremely volatile in both directions. And when you learn a skill like technical analysis, you can really play the market both ways, and there's no reason to be scared. There's a lot of people panicking, they're losing everything that they've invested in. This is one of those ways that you can really look out for your future, kind of know what to expect with your investments a little bit. Or if you're actually into day trading like I am, just because you enjoy doing it, it's a little higher risk, but it can be a game changer, guys. And I'm trying to head that direction. I have a long ways to go. I'm not trading with tens of thousands of dollars here, guys. I am still far from an expert, so I am being modest. I am not really going all in. I'm not putting much on the table at all in a lot of these trades. So just be smart about it. I preach it every video I make that you want to be able to be wrong many times. Don't throw your whole account balance into a trade, especially on a 15-minute chart pattern. But yeah, just play it as you see fit for your own rules, what works for you. Find your own trading systems that work for you, or just investing. Remember, nothing I say is financial advice. Again, I am no expert. I will not tell you what to do with your hard-earned money. I'm just showing a way to have some fun while times are, well, sketchy as shit in the markets, and there is ways to make money, even though a lot of people are losing money. So just keep that in mind, guys. Especially right now with all the quarantines going on, it is the perfect time to learn a new skill. To me, this is just like learning a different language. Some people want to learn Spanish, some French, some technical analysis. So you do you. Anyways, guys, everybody stay safe out there, and have a good night. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.